Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here. Hope you had a great day. Hope this video can make it a little bit better for you. Today we're going to be going over the patch notes. We have a couple new champions coming out as well as a brand new event, so let's jump right into it. So up first, we're getting some new content, new event, Titans of Runeterra. So brief overview of the event, and let's just go ahead and make this a little bit bigger for you. Throughout patch 6.2 and 6.3, so this patch and then the next patch as well, experience Runeterra with clashes of epic proportions as big chunky titans take over, delve into the 5 world adventures, so that's going to be awesome, 5 new adventures for us to play through, including one storyful adventure, which includes the most powerful threat Runeterra has faced yet, the Elder Dragon. That's right, Eddie is the new boss encounter, and bigger than ever before. Step aside, Reliant Soul, there's a new powerful dragon in town. This is going to be really fun. This is apparently going to be the toughest content in the game currently, so that'll be a lot of fun to test out. And now the event mechanic you can see right here, larger than life. Game start, both players gain 3 mana gems. Both players' units and damaging spells are stronger, and 3 cost cards are more expensive. Now, I think this negative is potentially supposed to be on the other side of the 3, maybe, so any cards below 3 cost are going to be more expensive, so this is trying to encourage you to play bigger and more expensive cards, instead of just trying to flood your board with a bunch of weaker units. So this new event mechanic improves expensive units and spells, granting both players extra mana gems, and lastly, creates an environment where Titanic units and spells can thrive. In addition, new powers and items make your giant chunky cards even more powerful than ever before. Good luck, and have fun, chunk it up. So this will be a lot of fun. Titanic decks like Volibear are some of the most fun to be able to play, so really looking forward to this one. Now for some more details on the world adventures we're getting, there's going to be 5 new world adventures under the Titans of Runeterra event map, where you can battle against giant foes while you become a giant yourself. Of these 5 is a brand new adventure, the Dragon Sire, so Elder Dragon, with new storyful encounters to test your strength against a whole lot of dragons. The Nightmare version is available as part of the event and is recommended for champions with a full 6-star constellation, and it can also be found as a permanent feature in the standard world map under the Targon region, and is recommended for champions 3 stars and above. So there's going to be 2 versions of this, Nightmare version and normal version, an easier 3-star one so everyone's going to be able to experience it and have fun with it, and then a tough 6-star one, or one that's made for 6-star constellations. So that should be a lot of fun to test out. Now, similar to the Legends of Arcane event, where you're able to select the map you're going to go for, there's normally like normal, nightmare, and then the event one. And so this is where a lot of these world adventures are going to be located into the new event map, like we had the Legends of Arcane. But that's not all we're getting. We're also getting a new champion, Nautilus, Titan of the Depths. Now, for Nautilus, his starting deck is going to be unique. Instead of just having 2 copies of each of his cards, he's actually going to be having 3 copies of each of the cards. That way you have a little bit more work to get deep. Deep is in your bottom 15 cards, and since you normally just start at 18, you'd be hitting deep almost immediately. So for Nautilus, you're getting 3 copies of all your cards instead. Now let's take a look at what that starting deck is. So up first, right here, we have 1-cost Dread Dredgers. When I'm summoned, toss 3. This is going to be a really nice way to get down your cards. If you don't know, tossing is just getting rid of or like discarding some of your deck. Now, you can't get rid of any of your champions, but this is a way to get rid of your cards to try to get down to that bottom 15. Because once you hit your bottom 15 cards, you trigger Deep, which makes all of your deep units get an extra 3/3, somewhat similar to Evolve. And then Deep is also how Nautilus levels up. So Dread Dredger is a nice, cheap way to toss a bunch of cards and try to get down to that deep threshold. We also have the Grumble Slug, 2-cost, 2/3 with a tune. Just a very kind of solid all-around card. Then we have the Devourer of the Depths. So 6-cost Sea Monster, and this is Deep, so its stat line is 4/4, but once you actually hit or trigger Deep, he's going to then be a 7/7. You see right here, and then play obliterate an enemy with less health than me. So you could play this before you go deep, but then you're only going to be able to obliterate a unit that has less than 4 health. But once this goes deep and gets all those extra stats, you'll be able to take out very large units. Next up then we have Heavy Metal, so 2-cost slow, destroy a unit's equipment and deal 2 damage to it. This is going to be an interesting one. I wonder what items this is going to get, because 2 damage isn't really that big of a deal. Also, there's not many units that actually use equipment on the enemy side, but this can give you a little bit of removal and utility. Then we have the Salvage, toss 2 and draw 2. Pretty good for a 4-cost burst. Again, just able to get some more cards in your hand. and then also try to get rid of some of your cards so you can hit that deep threshold. Then we get the Hired Gun, another just solid general card. When I'm summoned, grant the strongest enemy vulnerable, 2/3. This doesn't really fit your overall playstyle, but it's just a good early game card for you. Then we have Lure of the Depths. So 3 cost burst, reduce the cost of sea monster allies everywhere by 1, and draw a sea monster. The sea monsters are kind of the main units you want to be using for your deck because they all have deep, so when you hit that threshold of your bottom 15, they all get a lot bigger. So this is going to be really nice for you. And then we have the Beast Below, 4 cost, 4/4 with deep. Overall, solid unit. Like, it's good baseline, but once you also go deep, it then just gets a lot bigger. So overall, really nice sea monster. And then we have Nautilus. So 7 cost and 0/12 with fearsome and tough. So his level up condition is when you are deep. And then when I level up, copy tossed allies that cost 4 or more into your deck. So you spend the first part of your game tossing a whole bunch of your cards, just discarding them, getting rid of them. And then as long as you get Nautilus and you level him, he then puts a bunch of those cards back in your deck so that you're not about to run out of cards. And you can't toss champions. So even though you're tossing cards, you're not getting rid of your Nautilus. Now, once he goes deep, he then gets a massive amount of power, and he goes to, I believe, a 13/13. So he's this huge unit. And he has the effect that your sea monsters cost 4 less. So a lot of these units that you're going to be getting, you're then going to be playing at a dramatically reduced price. Think of it similar to like Aatrox when he levels with your Darkin, or Aurelion Sol when he levels with your Celestials. Now let's take a look at his star power. So up first, and let's zoom in again for this one. So Echoes of the Deep. Deep gives an additional 1/1 for every 10 cards you've drawn or tossed. So the more you're able to draw, the more you're able to toss. Your deep units are going to be even bigger. Baseline, they get 3/3 when they go deep, but this is just going to make them even stronger. And then your 2 cost, +1 starting mana until you're deep. When you draw a card, toss 1. Game start, toss your deck until your deck has 40 cards. This is actually going to be really important for you. For one, you want to build around draw, because then you can have more draw, and then the more you're drawing, the more you're tossing, so it's just helping you get back to that deep. And then this game start effect is going to be really important for you, because then you can stack up a ton of cards and just buy as many as you can from the shop. And the great thing with this, you're going to toss them all until you get to 40, and then the more cards you toss, the bigger buff you're going to get with your deep. So this is kind of the first power we've really gotten in the game that's really encouraging to just get as many cards as possible, meaning that Nautilus is going to pair really well with some other effects like Stack Deck that are also encouraging you to try to get as many cards as possible. So this will be really fun and give us a very interesting playstyle with our Nautilus. It'll also give us great consistency, because then we always know the maximum cards we're going to have is 40, and so even though we're adding a bunch to our deck, it's not really going to change how difficult it is to get deep, because the most we're ever going to have to really deal with is the 40 cards. Now for your 3-star, Deep gives an additional 1/1 for every 5 cards you've drawn or tossed. So again, your units once you hit Deep are going to be absolutely massive. Now for your 4-star, you have Fortifications, your Nexus is tough. Really strong effect. This is essentially the same thing as turret plating, but it's just always active. This is giving you a great amount of protection, and it's just helping you as you're trying to get to your deep, because you can be a little bit of a slower kind of stall deck waiting until you're triggering this effect to get these massive units. And so this is just helping protect you in that early game so you don't end up taking too much damage. Now your 5-star, just mana flow, get an extra mana gem. And the 6-star is Rising Tides. Each round, the first time you draw or toss a unit with cost less than or equal to your mana gems, create a copy in play. So this is able to scale with how much mana you have, but it's able to essentially give you a free unit in play, which is very nice. And then as you're going and getting more and more mana gems, this can potentially pull out bigger and bigger units, but you can't like pull out a 6-cost unit and then have that hit your board immediately. But this is also creating a copy in play, so it's not just summoning the unit. So you'll get a copy that hits your board, but then you'll also have another copy in your hand that you can also play as well. So this will just be a nice way to get free units, help your early game, and then in the later game, hopefully you'll pull out some nice big deep units and just get some massive sea monsters to try to annihilate the enemy. So overall, I think this will be really fun. It doesn't seem too insanely crazy, but it definitely is going to give you a lot of just good passive value. And overall, I think a lot of his star powers are pretty solid. I think him just even at 3 stars is going to be very good. Now his relic, Treasures of the Deep. Deep, and I am a sea monster. When I'm summoned, if you aren't deep, toss equal to my cost. Now this is actually going to help you in a couple different ways for your Nautilus. For one, he's not actually deep himself. So even though he gets a bunch of buffs, that's just normal to his card. By him getting deep, he's also getting all of those extra stats on you, which is pretty insane. And then he's also going to count as a sea monster. So anything that affects sea monsters can also affect him. The really important part for that one in your starting deck is right here, this Lure of the Depths. Reduce the cost of sea monster allies everywhere by 1, so that's guaranteed to hit your Nautilus, and then draw a sea monster, so this can also potentially draw out your Nautilus. So that'll be really good for you. But this also means he can benefit from sub-type effects, so if you're using like the Beast Within, he'll get that extra 1/1 and get that Overwhelm. And then this is also just helping you try to hit that deep, because when you're playing Nautilus, he's a 7 cost, you might be able to play him for like 5 or 6 mana, but regardless, he's still going to then toss a bunch of cards and just try to make sure you hit that deep. I think this will be a solid relic for you. I don't think it's necessarily like a must purchase, but if you like Nautilus, I think it'll be one you're happy to have. Next up then we have Nasus that's also getting updated to have a 6-star constellation, so let's take a look at that. So for his starting deck, still have Nasus as normal, still have the Rockhopper, When Summon a Rolling Sands, but you do actually have a little bit more synergy with this card from the star powers, because the Rolling Sands grants an enemy vulnerable when they play someone. So you already had this in your deck, but it's still going to be good. Still have the Bakai Sand Spinner, but again, that vulnerable is going to be just a little bit more impactful for you. Still have the Siphoning Strike as normal, but now we have the Bakai Reaper. So this is really nice. It's replacing the Bloodthirsty Marauder, which was part of the Renekton support package. So great that we're getting this card. And instead of the Giant Spells, it gains Studded Leather. So this is getting an additional 1/1, which is excellent. Then we have the Defender of the Sun Disc. So Daybreak, draw another Defenders of the Sun Disc. This used to have the Xenotype Researcher with Philosopher's Stone. Never really liked that card, and now we're getting Pickaxe and Bounty Board. So Pickaxe is +2 as far as power, and then Bounty Board, I believe it's when this unit dies, you summon a 1 to 2 cost follower. So it's nice to just keep having units on your board. Then we have the Rampage and Bakai, and this was replacing the other 5 cost, the Ruin Runner, which used to be part of the Sivir support package. And we're getting Dragon Tooth and Hardy Rations. That Dragon's Tooth is giving us Fury, so 1/1, and then when I kill a unit, scale up by additional 1/1. And then the Hardy Rations for that regen. This also has the play effect of if you slain 4 units this game, an enemy and I strike each other. So this is going to be great for you. Finally, we're getting more of the real Nasus support package in his starting deck, so this is great. And then we're getting the Weight of Judgment. So this is replacing the Quicksand, the burst speed, like silence enemy units, or at least get rid of their positive keywords, which was really good, but this will give us a little bit of removal for dealing damage to a champion or a follower. And the buff it's getting is the Morellonomicon, so that deals its damage in the form of gloom. So if this doesn't kill the unit, it's at least reducing down their stats so they're less of a threat. This is probably the one replacement that does actually hurt you a little bit. The Quicksand was a really good card. So this is a bit of a downgrade, but the rest of the cards that are being replaced is definitely an upgrade. So overall, it's still a net positive. Then we have the Exhaust. Now this card was already in the deck, but instead of getting the Hand Sensor, which just gave you top deck 1/1, this now gets the Elixir of Skill, so draw, which again is a better upgrade. So overall for your starting deck, they've improved a lot of cards, either changing the items on them or completely changing the card itself. And while the Quicksand is a little sad to see go, overall I think this is going to be a much better starting deck for you. Next up, let's take a look at the star powers and how they changed them. So up first we have Boon of the Ascended. So grant your strongest ally 1/1 for each unit you've slain this round. Once you've slayed 10 or more units, restore the Sun Disc. Now the second part, restore the Sun Disc, this only used to be in the 3-star, so this now got added into your 1-star. As you can see, here's the old one, and then here is the new one. For the 2-star, enemies have -1 as far as power, and then vulnerable enemies have -3 instead. So this is massive. It used to just have this first part, but now it's adding in this vulnerable synergy for you. So some of those cards we talked about in the starting deck that we said you now have unique synergy with, it's this right here. The vulnerable now is just further reducing down their stats. So this is going to be very impactful because vulnerable is great to be able to challenge enemy units and try to get those kills. They're going to have even weaker stats, so you're going to be able to try to have your units survive the trade with them. And this is giving you something else to build around now. And overall, I think this is going to be an excellent change to the 2-star. Then for the 3-star, grant your strongest ally 2/2 for each unit you've slain this round, so that's the same. Once you've slain 8 units, restore the Sun Disc. So this is really nice. Normally, when this was just the 10, you'd almost never see it activate because the game would end before then. So reducing down the amount of units you've killed will really help you trigger this Sun Disc effect much more consistently. For your 4-star, we have In My Sights, round start, grant the weakest enemy vulnerable. So this is going to be excellent for you, especially because of the change in your 2nd star. So now every round this is hitting the weakest enemy, and one thing this doesn't kind of say is it targets the enemy that doesn't have vulnerable. So if the weakest enemy already has vulnerable, this will hit the next weakest. So this will slowly work through and just granting all the enemy units that are vulnerable. So since this is the weakest enemy, and then they're getting another -3 from your 2-star, they should be pretty easy for you to kill. So you can try to scale up with your 3-star, trigger that sun disk effect, and also any unit this is hit by the fact it's nerfing them down is just going to be so helpful for you. This is a great synergy that they're added in between this and your 2-star, and overall I think Nasus is just going to feel so much better to play. For your 5-star, just the normal mana flow, and then the 6-star is doing a lot for you. So when you slay a unit, now this doesn't have to be an enemy unit, it could be your own, but when you slay a unit, reduce the cost of every card in your hand by 1 to a minimum of 1. So it can't be reduced down to 0, but you're reducing down all of your cards in hand, which is excellent. And then when you restore the Sun Disk, grant allies everywhere 5/5. So just all units you play going forward, any units that are on your board, just everywhere get that 5/5. So that's a great amount of scaling. But remember, this isn't your only scaling. Nasus is still scaling from his card effect of every time you slay a unit, he gets 1/1. And then you also still have your 3-star that's scaling up your units. So this is just going to be great, letting you play a lot of units just play a lot of cards for a greatly reduced price. And then also giving you more reason to try to restore that Sun Disk, because it's just going to give you a great amount of scaling. I think this will be pretty solid for you. Next up then, let's look at his Epic Relic. So when you play a champion, it strikes the weakest enemy. If it's Nasus, it also strikes the strongest enemy. So this will be good for Nasus, especially because he's then going to get 2 strikes off for him, and then also your support champion will get a strike off as well. And this also will be pretty good for other champions that especially are fine with just using the play effect, because this is a play effect, not a summon effect. So some champions like Lilia that are able to resummon a bunch of times, or like LeBlanc, they won't really want to use this. But some other champions like Kayn or Garen, Volibear, a lot of other champions will be fine with this just being a play effect, because then they're getting it, any other champions to play are also getting it. You could also pair this with something like Oath of the Guardians, so you're getting a bunch of extra champions, you're just trying to get a whole bunch more strikes off. So overall, I think it'll be a fun relic, and one you can use on other champions as well, but not something that's incredibly broken. Now, as far as the store, we're getting some new bundles. So the Battle Pass bundle, as always, and then Nautilus, we have a Celebration bundle, Nautilus Star Power bundle. Purchasing this bundle unlocks the Nautilus Celestial bundle, and then you see right here the Celestial bundle. Now, we aren't really sure what this is going to be. Previously, there was the Celebration bundle, the 4-star, and the 5-star bundle. So how this is going to change the 4 and 5-star bundle, we don't know yet, but apparently they are changing how this works in the shop. And then for Nasus, it's the same thing: Celebration bundle, Star Power bundle, and then the Celestial bundle. Now we're also getting some new items and also powers. Now I'm not sure if these are limited to just the event and those 5 adventures we're getting, or if these are just going to be added to the game entirely. Not 100% sure, but we'll go through them. So up first we have Blasting Sigil. Here, I'll try to increase this, make it a little bit bigger for you. So Blasting Sigil, epic, double damage. So this is going to be able to go on spells. As you see right here, these items are mostly targeted at expensive spells and units. So able to do double damage for your spell, that's going to be pretty great. Faulty Blasting Sigil, so double damage, but costs 1 more. Still going to be generally worth picking up. Dragon Egg, summon a random dragon of my base cost or less. So that can be pretty good. Flame Wreathed Soul, so play 2 random dragon boons on me, and those dragon boons normally give you a little bit of stats like 1 power and then also a keyword. Gigaphage, so 3/3. Iceborne, deal 2 damage to all enemies and the enemy nexus, so very similar to the Anivia effect. Little Titan, 2/2, but costs 1 more. Hail Imitation, -4 cost, but ephemeral. This will be pretty massive for some cards. Progressive Growth, round start, grant me 1/1 if I'm in play or in hand. This will be a lot of fun to get this and then have some units that are just constantly getting bigger and bigger in hand, and then you can just drop them. They're absolutely massive. Resplendent Plate Armor, so plus 7/7, but costs 3 more. This will be very fun, especially for Volibear, because this is pretty much guaranteeing whatever card is going to be Titanic, so that'll be a lot of fun. Spark of Brilliance, refill your spell mana, and then Titanic Maul, 5/5. Titan's Belt, 5 health, which apparently there's 2 of them. Titan's Pickaxe, plus 5 power. True Reflection, play summon a exact copy of me. Unstable Formula, deal 8 to a random enemy or the enemy nexus if there is none, which is pretty crazy that this is a common power, and that is a lot of damage. Zonya's Blessing, I can't take damage or die. That sounds pretty crazy. And then Dragon Leather 2/2. So pretty much for a lot of these, it's just a improvement over a lot of the items we currently have in the game, which is why I'm not sure if this is going to be kind of added to the general game overall, or if a lot of these are just going to be kind of the upgrades we're seeing in the new event maps. So we'll have to wait and see, but a lot of these are just massive improvements to the normal items we can get, but there's some here like the Zonyas where this is something we haven't really seen as a item before, so that should really be fun. Now, there's also some new powers. A couple of them haven't loaded in, so we'll go take a look at them over on X. All right, so sorry for the white screen, but here we see the early bird rare power. Game starts, summon your weakest follower from your deck, so that'll be really good. Always nice to get just a follower or anything summoned at the start of the game, and this is the fact of being your weakest follower means it should actually be something that is a little bit more useful for you than some of the other ones like the armed gearheads or the double agent. Next up then we have proper offerings. So common, round start, summon a Sigil of the Storm. Those sigils give you cost reductions towards your Titanic units. Now this will obviously be fantastic for Volibear, but in the new Titanic themed event, most people should be able to benefit from this because they're going to be trying to get a bunch of Titanic units. Next up then, Thrice Bound. So game start, summon your highest cost follower from your deck and curse it with shackles 3 times. This I think will be pretty fun. There's some units that you're totally fine with them just being on your board, even if they're immobile, but this is also giving you a way to try to cheat out some of your strongest units early, because those shackles with it being cursed 3 times, that's going to be like a 6 cost. That can also be reduced down by anything that reduces down the cost of your spells, or if you have extra spell mana, you could play that really early, and then you have this massive unit on your board. So this is one that, for some people, is going to be really good. All right, now here's another one. When the foe attacks, they cast Relentless Storm, targeting a random ally or your Nexus, if none, for each attacking Titanic unit. Relentless Storms is, I think, deal 4 damage to your unit or 2 damage to your Nexus. So this is going to be pretty rough. I think this is one of the powers that the enemies are going to get, probably Volibear. So that'll be pretty scary to go against. Then we have Uphill Battle, round start. For each landmark the foe has, they stun your weakest unit. That's going to be really annoying. You definitely want to go for some of the champions that are able to destroy enemy landmarks, or at least draft for them, because this could be really annoying if they have 3-4 landmarks and you just all of your units are getting stunned. And Land of Giants, when either player adds a card to their hand, set its cost to 3. This is going to be very fun because this is very similar to one of the modifiers in the monthly challenges, where any card you draw set its cost to 3. Because then if you're playing a deck that has a lot of very big expensive units, such as like Elder Dragon or Volibear, you're then playing these massive units at a really discounted price. And so it's just encouraging you to have big expensive units because then they're getting reduced down. But if you're playing a deck that's a lot of small units, then they're going to be likely more expensive. Dragon's Wrath, when the foe plays a unit with a 6 or more base cost, it plays a random dragon boon on it, and the foe has plus 10 Nexus health. So those dragon boons, if this is for Elder Dragon, then that's going to be giving their Elder Dragon cost reduction so they can get it out on the board. But then those Dragon Boons are also going to be buffing up their units, and then the Nexus is just going to be very massive. And then Dragon's Wrath, when the foe plays a unit with 6 or base cost, it plays a random Dragon Soul on it, which are improved versions of Dragon Boons. I'm guessing that this might be the Elder Dragon power for the 3-star adventure, and then maybe this is the Elder Dragon power for the like 6+ star adventure. All right, that's it for new powers. Let's then kind of wrap this up. So for the Emporium, the icon of Valhyr is now going to be the epic that's available in the Emporium, and the Misfortune one that was previously there is going to be removed. As far as some changed content, so some of the new and existing bosses and mini bosses have been added to the pool for the weekly adventures and weekly nightmares, so that's great, adding some more variety there. And then a lot of these new powers have also been added to the pool for the nightmares and the weeklies. As far as items, they changed some of the requirements for many items to make some of the weaker items unable to show up on units that cost 6 or more. So if you don't know, all the items are kind of tuned for different ranges. So certain items can only show up on cards that are a specific cost. So they're just kind of reworking that to make sure your bigger units are only getting like better offers. Now, some different bug fixes here. Not a lot that are going to be too big for a lot of people, but the biggest one, in my opinion, is right here. Fix an issue with a Darius 6-star did not find a unit when attacking with 9 mana gems, because apparently there was no 9-cost Noxus follower. which was really annoying that your 6-star just wouldn't trigger if you had 9 mana. So I'm not sure how they're changing this, if it's just going to give you like an 8 cost then, so you're still getting something. But that's kind of the biggest one. Overall, I am very excited for this patch. I think I'm probably more excited for this patch than I have been for really any like the past 6 months. And we've had a lot of good patches in the past while, but this I think is going to be super fun. I really like both of the champions. I think that they did a great job with improving Nasus. He had like 3 major pain points, and I thought they were going to maybe adjust like 1 or 2 of them, but they kind of fixed all of them. Because previously your starting deck kind of terrible. Your star powers were inconsistent, so your sun disc, often you wouldn't even summon it, and then if it did, if you had a full board, it would kind of summon but just get destroyed and not trigger. They're fixing that, so even if you have full board, its effect will still go off. It's now going to be easier to summon because it's only 8 units instead of 10, and they're improving your ability to get kills. And then also his 2-star was always just not good enough, and they also upgraded that as well. So overall, they fixed all the pain points for Nasus, and I think he's going to be a very fun champion. And then Nautilus, I think they did a good job incorporating deep. It's always been one that would be pretty difficult to balance, but I think they're gonna, it looks like they did a really good job. And I'll have to test everything and see, but I'm very excited for both these champions. This event seems like it's gonna be a ton of fun. I personally just love Titanic units, so this is like the perfect event for me. And overall, I think this is gonna be a fantastic update. And overall, I think this is gonna be a fantastic patch, and the one I'm the most excited for in quite a while. Now, shortly after this video goes live, I'll be actually streaming over on Twitch, playing all of the things as soon as they are released. So definitely check the link in the description if you want to come and hang out. But we'll also be posting videos of everything up on this YouTube channel. So if you don't want to miss any of that, definitely like and subscribe. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you enjoy this patch.